Welcome back into Ben Talks Utah Hockey. I'm Ben, your podcast host for all things regarding Utah Hockey Club. From game previews, post-game breakdowns, player highlights, stats, and storylines, this podcast is your ultimate guide for Utah's newest hockey team. We'll dive into the big moments, key plays, and rising stars who are putting Utah Hockey Club on the map. Whether you're a lifelong hockey fan, a newcomer to the sport, or you're just curious about Utah's growing hockey community, this is the place to be. So lace up your skates, grab your stick, and join me as we hit the ice and talk all things Utah Hockey Club. All right, and with that, we are going to get into an away matchup here at Calgary on January 2nd, 2025. And it's going to be a little post-game review / breakdown here. We're going to go through some of my thoughts on the pregame before this matchup started, and then we'll break it down period by period and give you some thoughts on the post as well. So pregame coming into this one, basically my thought was just got to get some goal production tonight. Play a little bit more physical, get pucks deep, chip pucks in, and go to the net, get some points. Liam O'Brien is back in the lineup for the second night in a row because Matthias Michelli is out with an illness, so there must be something going around that locker room right now. And hopefully in this game we would see a little bit of production from O'Brien. I don't think necessarily he had to get any points tonight. That wouldn't hurt, but just if he can make an impact for his line, screen the goalie, finish checks, things like that, the intangible things that you don't see on a score sheet. I think that was an important point for them tonight. We see Clayton Keller back in the lineup from his illness, and he's looking to make an impact on this game. Robert Bortuzzo, he gets the nod in place of Kolyachonok on that third defensive pairing, so he's coming back into the lineup as well. And then on the flip side of the ice, Nazem Kadri for the Calgary Flames, he's coming into this game with 6 goals in the last 9 games, and Utah needs to try to quell his production tonight. So getting into the first period, Vejmelka versus Vladar. Say that 3 times fast. Vejmelka versus Vladar. Vladar getting the net for the Flames. Vejmelka in between the pipes for Utah. And we start off pretty quick here tonight with Utah scoring the first goal. Lawson Krause breaks his scoring drought. He gets the assist from Ian Cole on a good breakout and hustle from the third line. They pressured on the forecheck after dumping it into the zone, and Cole has a nice pinch to set up a cross-crease pass to Krause, and that goal comes with about 11 minutes left in the first, and that's Krause's 5th of the year. So that first 8 to 9 minutes of the period, it was stop and go, lots of whistles, kind of a broken game, no real flow yet to the game, and we see that kind of pick up midway through the third and then into the second and third period, midway into the first, and then into the second and third, the pace picks up tremendously and the flow of the game just is back and forth. So after Krause's goal, we see Coronado from the Flames. He takes a tripping penalty with about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the period. Utah controls. They get a couple of shots, but they can't capitalize on the power play. And then shortly after, Utah takes a penalty for too many men on the ice, and this leads to a Calgary goal on the power play. Blake Coleman, he scores on a rebound from Nazem Kadri, and they tie it up at 1 on their power play chance. So Nazem Kadri gets on the board, and it's tied 1-1 as we head into the second. So shots in the first were Utah with 6, Calgary with 10, and I'm noticing in this period that, and this was kind of a theme throughout most of the game, is that Utah was not moving their feet in the defensive zone. They were reaching with their sticks, keeping their feet still, and just trying to poke and reach into guys' bodies with their sticks. They were getting in shooting lanes with the sticks and some bodies and getting some block shots, but a little bit too much reaching and not enough moving the legs, moving the feet. And that was one thing I noticed in the first. Also noticing this all across the league. This is not just a Utah thing. I see it a few times a game is guys not hustling to get off the ice and go to the bench. They're relying on just coasting in and waiting for a door to open for them to get off the ice. And it led to a too many men penalty for Utah, with Sergachev not getting off the ice before Ian Cole touched the puck. And like I said, I've seen it from a lot of teams this year, and it's just something that can cost your team, and it does in this period with Calgary capitalizing on that penalty. And you just don't like to see that. And especially, this was in the first period, but I think it's a bigger deal in the second period when the bench is further away. When you flip-flop the ice in that second period, your bench is further away from your defensive zone, and you'd like to see guys put a little more effort into getting off the ice at times. Sometimes it's fine when both teams are changing. It's like, okay, we can all coast back to the bench, but it's just one thing that maybe is kind of one of my pet peeves. I'm like, if it were me playing, back when I played and was playing in competitive hockey, that was something you'd get yelled at for if you didn't skate hard to the bench. So I know these guys have made it. They're in the NHL. They're getting paid big money to do this, but sometimes, you gotta bust your ass to get off the ice. And yeah, we see Calgary take advantage of that with Utah getting that too many men penalty tonight. So that was the first period. Second period, the pace of play picks up drastically, and this period was crazy. Back and forth, penalties, goals. Starts off with Utah taking a penalty. Michael Kesselring gets an interference penalty early, and that was with one of those plays I was just talking about, reaching with the stick, not moving his feet, and getting blown by, players blowing by you on the rush. And yeah, you got to fix that. We've seen that quite a bit from Kesselring this year. And Utah's penalty killing unit looks good on this one, though, and they kill it off. And then shortly thereafter, Calgary takes penalty. Nazem Kadri, he goes for interference, and this leads to a power play goal from Utah. Logan Cooley, he scores from Gunther and Keller on a nice tic-tac-toe play with Cooley at the back door of Vladar's net, and he gives Utah the lead at 2-1 with his 10th of the season. And Utah's power play capitalizes again. They looked really good on that power play. But shortly after, a minute later, Calgary, they score a goal to negate the lead. Zary, he fights through a crowd and a would-be holding from Kerfoot, and he slides one underneath Vejmelka on kind of a fluky goal, and Calgary ties it back up at 2. That goal was assisted by Uyghur and Sharon Govich. And about midway through the second period, shots are 15-15, and the pace continues to pick up. Juuso Valimaki for Utah, he then takes a tripping penalty, and Rooney for the Flames, he retaliates, slashes him back, and it wasn't a great penalty by either guy. You don't want to see that for Rooney. For the Flames, he retaliates, and we saw that a couple of times tonight, a couple of bad penalties, and I'm going to talk about that here now. That led to a 4-on-4, so both guys go to the box, and it was kind of a weird thing. During the TV timeout after that penalty, which we didn't get a replay of, Nazem Kadri and Liam O'Brien are assessed 10-minute misconduct penalties. I'm assuming, I don't know if they dropped the gloves and kind of went, or if they just slashed each other or what happened, but O'Brien and Kadri are off the ice for 10 minutes, and that is Liam O'Brien's role. If he's going to take a penalty, taking somebody else with him so it doesn't put Utah down a man, and he takes one of their best players with him. He takes Nazem Kadri and gets him off the ice for an extended period of time. And so We didn't see it, but it's kind of a big deal either way. Um, so with the shots being 15-15 at that point, after all that kind of goes down, Calgary does score the next goal. Pachal scores from Coronado and Coleman and makes it 3-2 for Calgary late in the second. And shortly after, Utah takes another penalty. Bugstad, he goes for hooking, putting Calgary back up on the power play. And another example of not moving the feet and getting the stick into a guy's legs. And Utah does kill this one off to end the second period, but Calgary comes into the third with that lead at 3-2. At the end of the second period, shots were 20-15 favoring Calgary, with a couple lead changes in the period, and the momentum was kind of swinging back and forth from both teams. You could see the frustration just kind of mounting for both teams. And Utah needs to cut down on the giveaways and the turnovers in neutral ice and in the defensive zone. This is one thing I noticed. A lot of giveaways tonight, and unforced errors. And to use another cliche, I feel like a broken record every time I say it, but just stay out of the box. You got to stay out of the box. It's a story as old as time. It seems like I talk about it every episode, but you got to stay out of the box. Vejmelka was playing well to keep Utah in the game, and Vladar on the other side up to this point was playing well. Both teams taking penalties and both goaltenders bailing out their teams throughout this period. Even though we did see some goals scored, it could have been a lot worse. So heading into the third period, quickly, within seconds, 40 seconds of starting the third period, Utah gets a goal. Clayton Keller scores to start the period on a tip shot from Olli Mata. It was also assisted by Baron Hayton, and that ties it up at 3. And then minutes later, Utah gets another goal. Lawson Krause, he gets his second of the night from Bugstad and Mata. That's Mata's second assist. And it puts Utah up 4-3 early in the third. So now Utah's playing with the lead here. Calgary, they take a penalty. Braden Pachal, he trips Kerfoot by the bench and gives Utah another power play chance. Calgary ends up killing it off. Calgary takes another penalty. This time it's a penalty shot. So Alexander Kerfoot, he got in on kind of a breakaway and he was tripped up. And that, when a player has an uncontested look at the net on a breakaway, like they're all alone and somebody comes from behind and trips them or whacks them or hooks them, the referee, it's at his discretion. There's a few rules that in the official's handbook that it breaks down all the things that need to happen for a penalty shot to occur on that play. And they decided that fulfilled those. And so Kerfoot gets that penalty shot. How do I say it? They just get the penalty shot. They don't have to serve the 2-minute penalty. The penalty shot is a free chance. It's like an overtime. It's like in overtime when it's just 1-on-1 with the goalie. So they don't have to sit for that 2-minute minor. They get the penalty shot instead of the 2-minute minor penalties. So you get a free lookout. You get a free uncontested chance at the net instead of a penalty. But Kerfoot can't capitalize. Vladar shuts him down. And we roll on in the third. And Clayton Keller, late in the third, he takes a roughing penalty. He punched Coronado in the face on a play away from the puck in frustration, and he must have got a stick somewhere that didn't feel great. Utah does kill the penalty well, but that's one thing. You can't see that from your captain. You can't see him away from the play just punching a guy in the face. It's just not a good look for the captain there, but as after that's killed off, Utah does kill it off, so that's good. And we're getting later on into the third with minutes left. Vladar gets pulled, and Gunther almost capitalizes on a nice full length of the ice shot, and he just misses by inches. And then shortly thereafter, Utah does capitalize on the empty net. Kevin Stenlund, he buries it on an assist from Kerfoot and Sergachev, and that's going to ice the game for Utah with a win, 5-3. There was another small chance there. Calgary pulled Vladar again, and the Utah players were trying to get Lawson Krause a hat trick, but he can't capitalize. But nonetheless, Utah gets the win, 5-3 over the Flames. Shots at the end of the game ended up being even at 26-26. So yeah, just kind of an exciting game. The first period wasn't anything really to write home about, but it really picked up in the second and the third, and it was a pretty exciting back and forth game to watch. Both teams played well. Utah just kind of capitalized on a couple chances that they got, and they were lucky that Calgary didn't capitalize on a couple of their turnovers. So a couple of my thoughts in the post game here. I thought Karel Vejmelka, he played really well tonight. He played his angles well, and he gave them a chance on the penalty kill to stay in the game. Both teams did capitalize once apiece on penalties. So both teams' power play units do capitalize, but I thought Karel Vejmelka did really well tonight. Utah had like 22 penalty minutes if you count, or they had 20 penalty minutes with Liam O'Brien's 10 minutes, and then 5 2-minute minor penalties. So 5 chances, you only give up one. That's better than nothing. And Vejmelka did his part tonight. Another thought I had was the third line finally, they break through. They simplified their game a little bit, and Lawson Krause, he nets 2, breaking his scoreless streak, and it was just good to see that for him tonight. The third line, they simplified their game a little bit, which I've thought they've needed to do for the last 10 games, 15 games even. It's the old cliche of get pucks deep and get bodies to the net, quote unquote, but it's a cliche for a reason because it works. And of course, Nick Olchek says the exact same thing in between periods. I'm writing my notes, and then he's like, yeah, you just need to get pucks deep, get bodies to the net. And it's just the old cliche that hockey players say. And it reminds me of like the Letterkenny show where there's like a little skit that Jared Kiso does that they're interviewing hockey players, and he's just like so dead faced, like, we got to get pucks deep, got to get pucks to the net, get some goal, like whatever. It's just funny because it's a cliche that hockey players say, but my God, is it true? Get pucks in, forecheck, get guys in front of the net, and good things happen. So I really liked the big physical line, that third line with Bjugstad, Krause, and O'Brien on it. And I do think that that's a third line that you need in the NHL these days. Like if Utah goes into the playoffs, if they make it there, I think that that's a line that you want out there during the playoffs. A big physical third line that can also put the puck in the net. It reminds me of, some 2000s hockey where those hard checking teams, but they could also put the puck in the net. And I know the game was a little bit different back then, but I still think you need that aspect in your game, especially if you want to make a playoff push. You don't want to get too cute with things. You don't want to try to make too many plays. You just want to get goals in dirty areas, and that third line can do that for you. And they did so tonight. Like I said, 2 goals from Krause. Huge slump buster for him. And he almost did get the hat trick late with that empty netter tonight, but he couldn't capitalize. Would have loved to see that. I don't know how many hat tricks he has in his career, but I doubt it's many, if any. So good to see that from Krause tonight. I also thought another player that stood out for me was Logan Cooley. On the power play, he gets it done. He gets a goal on the power play, and he also plays super well on the penalty kill. He plays a full 200-foot game. I've said it before. I'll say it again, but he looks good on both special teams. That top power play line is full of talent, speed, snipers, playmakers, and they're fun to watch when they get an opportunity at it. It's tough for teams to contain them and cover everybody when they are one of the best teams in the league at cycling the puck efficiently and finding soft areas of the ice to get goals. And they did that tonight. Cooley capitalizing on that power play chance. I've already talked about Krause. He got 2 goals tonight. Oli Mata, he gets 2 assists as well. So a couple of multi-point games from some players that you haven't seen much production from as of late. And Keller also had a multi-point game after coming off of his illness. And you could tell he still wasn't feeling great. They cut away to him in the third period, and he looked gassed. Like he just looked like he had nothing left in the tank. You could see it on his face. He did take a bad penalty in the middle of that third period with that frustration and retaliation. It wasn't a great penalty to take, but you don't want to see that from your captain. But it doesn't cost them this time. But he does get it done on the score sheet. He gets a goal and an assist tonight. And then basically up next, we've got Dallas on the road, and then there's a few days of a break, and then we get a nice 7-game homestand. Utah's played their fair share of road games this season, with more road games than home, and they're getting a nice 7-game homestand coming up. So hopefully they can take that energy they played with tonight, take that over to Dallas, and then back home on their homestand. We'll see what they can do. Huge points tonight. Get them up to 40 points and a little bit back into the conversation in terms of playoff positioning. But they need to take it to Dallas here on the road. They gotta get some points before this homestand and then find a way to get it done in the Delta Center because they haven't this year. Lots of overtime games, lots of 1-goal games, lots of games with blown leads at home. So playing that complete game, I thought they did well tonight. They were neck and neck with Calgary the entire night. Nothing really got out of hand. Momentum was swinging, but it didn't shift too far in one direction and wasn't anything that Utah couldn't come back from. And we've seen that in flashes this year where they get down by 1, maybe 2, and they're like, okay, no problem. We got goal scorers. We can go get this one. And the goals actually came for them tonight. They do let in 3, which I've said that I think I said that in the post game of the last game or in the preview, is you got to score 3 or more to win most nights. And they get that done tonight. They finally get the back of the net. They finally just capitalize. Like, just have not seen the goal production as of late up until tonight, and that was really nice to see. Like I said, I think you got to score 3 or more every night if you want to win. And a couple of unlikely faces get it done tonight with Krause. He just hasn't had that production all season up until tonight. And I was talking about Michelli in my last post game or in my preview, one or the other, and he was out tonight with that illness, but I was saying like, oh, if he starts scoring, like I think it's just going to come in bunches for them. And maybe my prediction was wrong on which player it was going to be, but I think it just applies to that third line in general. Like they had to get something going, and tonight Lawson Krause did that for them. And that big third line gets it done tonight. Really good to see that from them. And honestly, I do think I'm not in Andre Turney's head. I'm just a guy with a microphone in Florida talking about Utah hockey. But when I watch every game, and when I watch these games, I don't think that Michelli's out of place on that line. He's kind of a Clayton Keller light, if you want to. If I had to put um like a likeness to him, he plays a lot like Clayton Keller. He's kind of smaller, but he's quick, shifty, handles the puck really well, and I think that that's needed on that third line. But I also think with O'Brien in the lineup tonight, with Bugstad and Kraus, I just think that line is one that I want to see. Like physical, big. They've got the size. All those guys can put the puck in the net. We haven't seen that as much this year from that line, but yeah, I don't know. That's a line that I don't want to go up against if I'm a winger for any team. I don't want to be out there playing against those big guys with long reaches and tough in corners and on the boards. So that's just a thought, but maybe going forward, maybe that worked for them tonight, and maybe Michelli does get a healthy scratch here and there. I don't know. Andre Turney's talked about, I'm not going to take away a guy's job because he has one bad game or anything like that, but Michelli's still a young player, and I think maybe him sitting out a game or two, it might not be the worst thing. Getting a different look in there. I know Andre Turney wants to keep lines the same and keep the consistency, and if things are working, they're working, but over the past 5, they haven't been working, and up until this game. So, I really like that line. I like seeing, I'm one of those guys. I like seeing O'Brien in the lineup. I don't like seeing top players out for him to get that opportunity, but Michelli hasn't been performing this year. He's got 10 points. I think he's got 3 goals, 7 assists, and I think he's been feeling the pressure. And like I said, he was out with that illness tonight, but I think he's been feeling the pressure. And honestly, I don't think it would hurt for him to have a healthy scratch every once in a while, or for an extended period. I mean, that's my opinion. Nobody else's opinion. That's my opinion, but I liked what I saw. That third line, they're gritty, and they played so well tonight. They forechecked well. They had a ton of offensive zone time. They controlled the puck, and when they weren't in control, they were still keeping it down in Calgary's defensive zone. So that's just one thing going forward, that if you want to make the playoffs, I think, and again, these are all my personal opinions, but I think you need that presence. You need that physical. You need that one line that teams don't want to play against. They shy away from pucks. Those 50-50 battles. They kind of take a wide turn and just kind of slap at the puck and try to chip it away and give the puck back to Utah. So for me, they looked pretty dominant tonight. It didn't look like any of the forwards for Calgary wanted anything to do with them. And yeah, that's just one thing that I want to see more of. Maybe that's selfish of me, but I want to see more of that going forward. Yeah, Utah played a complete game tonight. They had their moments of penalties, but things got kind of heated back and forth. I talked about this in the pregame, is that Calgary has guys that they're going to stick up for their guys, and they did tonight. We saw a few retaliation penalties from both sides and got pretty chippy, but Utah pulls it out. They looked well. They looked well in that third period. I mean, Calgary couldn't get it past Vejmelka. A, you got to have that backbone, A, and then B, just the forecheck, and they shut them down. They had good sticks. There were points in this game, like I said, they were not moving their feet well to get back on rush chances, but they did get sticks and bodies in shooting lanes, and they broke up passes, shot attempts, and were able to clear their zone pretty well tonight after chances. So hopefully that's something positive to build on as we go into this final road game and then the home stretch. But yeah, I think I'm done talking for the night. It's almost 12:30, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff wherever you find this podcast. If you made it this far, I appreciate you listening. We'll be back with a pregame of the Dallas game coming up. I think that'll come out. Oh, gosh. Let's see. They play them on Saturday, the 4th. Gosh, I'm losing my days with Christmas and New Year's, and it's been a whirlwind. So tomorrow I will probably put that out either before I go to work or when I get home from work. I'll put out that pregame with the Stars. We'll go over everything there, and we'll be following up with the postgame Saturday night, maybe Sunday morning for some of you listeners. But yeah, we'll be back in action then. This is Ben Talks Utah Hockey, and we'll see you on the next one.